Josie White is a junior studying philosophy and English. She hopes to attain a PhD in philosophy to pursue her dreams of teaching at a collegiate level. Over the summer, Josie researched the ethics behind the treatment of the mentally ill in a modern society. Josie Ill is passionate about destigmatizing mental illness and increasing the quality of treatment for an underrepresented group.
Currently, in the United States alone, 1 in 4 people deal with a diagnosable mental illness every year. This means that whether we realize it or not, we all know many people with a mental illness. Like me, my name is Josie and I have bipolar disorder. Despite that huge number, stigma surrounding mental illness still exists and hurt everyone. We live in a society that isn't conducive to offering help to the mentally ill. For those of us who are brave enough to ask for help, they are regularly denied help by the systems in place and people closest to them. But I am here with good news. We have the power to abolish these stigmas surrounding mental illness. My goal tonight is to encourage everyone to take active steps to destigmatize mental illness. But let's take a step back. What exactly is bipolar disorder, and what's a stigma? Bipolar disorder is a mood disorder that deregulates and intensifies your mood, leaving you unable to control it. What this means is that your high moods are extraordinarily high, and your low moods are very, very low. The high moods are called mania. To give you an idea of what it means to be manic, imagine that Christmas Eve feeling you got as a child. Too excited and too happy to sleep. Now imagine that times 10. For me, what this means is that I'm so happy I can't think clearly or sleep, and I make impulsive decisions, like buying new clothes or asking strangers out. One of those usually doesn't turn out so well. The lows manifest themselves in depression. Imagine that sick to your stomach feeling you get when you hear that something terrible has happened to someone you love. Now imagine that feeling lasting for days, even weeks at a time, with nothing you can do about it. These examples are as close as I can get to accurately describing bipolar disorder, but it still doesn't encompass everything, like the stigma associated with bipolar disorder. So what is a stigma? A stigma is a mark of shame associated with a circumstance, quality, or person. Stigmas are unique when it's compared to prejudice, discrimination, and stereotyping because it's easy to internalize shame. The stigma surrounding mental illness haunts you. When you feel down, not only do you feel terrible, but you can't help but think that if somebody you love had the opportunity, they would replace you with a version of yourself that didn't have this thing, this burden that makes you impossible to love. Do you see what I mean? Even the way someone who studies mood disorders and has one, talks about mood disorders, is incredibly negative. We need to stop letting ourselves treat ourselves and others so poorly. Something needs to change, and that change can start here and now with you and me. Stigmas harm us in a variety of ways, and we'll touch upon 2 of these harms in this speech. First, stigmas surrounding mental illness wreak havoc on an individual's identity and sense of self-worth, and second, people don't seek help from a mental illness, professionally or otherwise. When I disclose to people that I have bipolar disorder, they inevitably treat me differently, and this shift in treatment is a trend. In a study in 2000, researchers found that people with mental illnesses, more specifically those who most identified with being a mental patient, limited their social interactions to people who already knew about their mental health status. People literally limit their opportunities to avoid being rejected. This is hugely problematic. If we live in a society that treats you like you're subhuman because of a mood disorder, Why on earth would someone want confirmation that they have such a disorder? This means that people too frequently refuse to seek help from mental illness. That refusal prevents people from getting help that they need. A substantial amount of pain could and would be prevented if we lived in a society where it was okay to ask for help. But we can make that world a reality. The steps are simple. We need to first think about how we present ourselves to others so we're approachable. Then think twice about our first responses when somebody confides to us, and finally, respond with compassion. Since 25% of Americans do deal with a diagnosable mental illness every year, there will almost always be somebody assessing whether or not they can confide in you. Everything we do, even like the little things, like the emojis we use, have an impact. This emoji is my single biggest pet peeve. Someone shoot me now. This makes light of the worst feeling in the world, a feeling of hopelessness, abandonment, and self-hatred. There is no feeling comparable to feeling suicidal. And when we use emojis like this, or use words like crazy and insane to demean and hurt one another, the message we're sending is that we don't take mental illness, its side effects, and its stigma seriously, which means people aren't very likely to confide in you. So keep that in mind, cut that behavior out, and then hopefully you'll become an advocate. But what's the takeaway message here? You never know who's listening or watching you to see if they can confide in you. Make sure you do take mental illness seriously and show that you care. If you do that, you do have the potential to improve somebody's life. Next, let's talk about first reactions. They count. The way you respond determines whether someone will continue to talk to you. I've divided the most common responses I receive into the O's. There's the surprise O. Oh, but you're so normal. It's like somebody with a mental illness could be a functioning member of society. Who knew? Then there's the disgusted O. Oh. Is an O remarkably similar to the noise somebody makes when smelling spoiled milk or trash? Something that needs to be disposed of, or, in the case of mental illness, pushed away. Then comes the all-knowing, all-understanding O. Oh, I knew there was something off about you. Thank you, really, for letting me know that you've continually thought there is something wrong with me throughout the duration of our relationship. This clarifies things for me. Then there's the overly sympathetic O. Oh, you poor thing. It's like I'm a toddler with a scraped knee. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I do need more additional help, but I am capable of utilizing a full adult vocabulary. These four O's all have the potential to alienate whomever has made the decision to confide in you. Each, in its own way, sends the message that you're going to treat the person differently. Walls go up and the discussion stops there. Something serious may go unsaid, and that's troublesome. If that's the case, what is the right way to respond? How about, oh, okay, let's talk about it. It's that simple. Talking about mental illness doesn't have to be uncomfortable. For a very sizable portion of our population, including our family and friends, having a mental illness is a very real part of their lives. The next step isn't as straightforward as the others, and it involves a lot of trial and error. That step is meeting others with compassion. Compassion transcends kindness in that you extend love, hope, and sympathy to those who come to you in their time of need. Compassion comes in many forms. It might mean making dinner for someone when they're faced with what might seem like unsurmountable difficulty. It might mean finding new depths of patience and forgiveness when a person isn't making progress or falls back into old habits. Compassion is hard, but when we are compassionate, we open ourselves up for progress and love. And if you've made a mistake, apologize and move on. People will recognize you're trying to help. But let me make something clear. If someone is suicidal, you take action right then and there. Do not leave their side until you know they are safe. Get them professional help immediately, even if they insist they don't need it. it is surprisingly easy to hide suicidal feelings. It is always better to err on the side of caution when dealing with suicidal episodes. Sometimes compassion also means defending someone when they aren't able to do it themselves. There are a lot of things you'll have to experience firsthand to know how to handle them gracefully. But so long as we think about how we present ourselves and respond with compassion, we are all still able to talk about an issue that needs to be taken out of the dark. When we talk about mental illness, we are able to change the stigmas surrounding it and their negative effects. If we take active measures to destigmatize mental illness, we can create a world where it is okay to ask for help, and that would prevent all types of pain. My name is Josie. I have bipolar disorder, and I am more than my diagnosis, and I'm certainly more than a stigma. Thank you.